Hey bass anglers, today I want to talk about a special piece to add to your summer bass fishing arsenal to get you more fish and to dial in on fish when you find them. So everybody's heard of shaky head fishing, but not everybody talks about where to use it, how to use it, precisely when and what to do to catch fish after you've found them. In the summertime, there are definitely patterns that emerge as the summer goes on and things get warmer. Everybody knows that a topwater bite emerges around offshore points and weed edges on offshore points. And so that can be a great indicator on where to also use a shaky head, and how to use it is going to be something we're going to talk about today in this video so that you can be more precise and get more fish off of a particular spot. So if you're out there fishing and you're on a big tapering weed point that's got weeds that maybe even are emergent a good ways off the point, and then you see them stop right and you can follow along that emergent edge, backing way off the point and throwing a topwater bait along that edge is a great way to locate fish, and you can catch some good fish and some big fish doing that. But what that does is it should clue you in that there's more fish there and that they're feeding, obviously, and you can work that topwater pattern for a while until you've milked all the bigger fish off that spot. But then there's also some that you miss that blow up past the bait, roll it over, or just don't bite the topwater. Or as the day progresses and things get warmer, the topwater bite might work in the morning, but then as the day gets longer, hotter, maybe the sun gets higher, those fish will pull from the tops of those weeds suspended off the edge of them, and sometimes they'll pull down into the base of those weed edges, and then the shaky head becomes a great tool. And I want to just show a little bit, talk a little bit about what I do and what I use to pluck some additional fish off of those spots. So I like to use the Z-Man products for the shaky head fishing, and they have a SMH, they call it, Shake My Head. So the SMH is a play on the shaking my head, right, that people use in social media, but they developed a special shaky head jig. And what I like about this jig, number one, is the great hook on it. It's got a sharp, stout hook on it with a good keeper to keep that elastic plastic on there. But I really like the head, and I like the head for this style of fishing. You'll see a lot of shaky head heads on the jigs aren't as weedless as this, and this has got a real smooth, rounded, narrow profile, and it's got a vertical line tie. See how that line tie is vertical? That's going to come through the weeds better than just about any other shaky head jig, in my opinion, and it works very well for this technique that I'm going to talk about. And then I like the SMH Worm. It's the Elastec Z-Man Worm, and I get it in a number of colors. I get it in plum, I get it in Junebug, I get it in a color called Mudbug, and then I get it in a color, obviously green pumpkin is a standard. But the plums, as we know, and the Junebugs work good around weeds in summer when it's hot. Don't ask me why, they just do. Everybody's calling for them. So here I've got a Junebug colored worm. I've got a green pumpkin colored SMH head, and the heads come in 1/8, 3/16, and 1/4. And I like the 3/16 for this technique, and if the wind's blowing, I'll go to 1/4, because as I describe the technique, it needs to be where it needs to be. So I'll take this and just rig it for you quick. This is a Junebug colored one, and I usually measure the base of the keeper to determine how far I go into the worm, but get it up there enough that you can scrunch it in ahead of that keeper, roll it up, spin it around, pull the keeper up, and then that's going to pin that thing really well. These keepers really hold these worms well. And then get it aligned with the hook, and then really you just take in that hook and you're coming in and you're just putting it below the surface. Now it's kind of kinked when it's on there, but it's got a nice spiral fall to it. But the beauty of this thing is that when it lands on the bottom, this whole tail section stands straight up. And as you jiggle it, this thing's going to stand straight up, and you can pull it in place. So now here's what you're going to do to fish this thing. You're going to throw this out, and what you want to do is you want to parallel yourself with the weed line. So find that weed line and you want to be like 6 inches inside to a foot inside that weed edge. If you imagine, and I'll show it in a drawing here, where the weed line interfaces the rock or the transition zone from the break and the weed edge, you don't want to be outside the weed edge hopping it around. You want to be just inside that weed edge. Those fish will position themselves just inside, looking out. There's a shade line there when the sun gets high, and they back themselves up and bury themselves in the weeds when they're not suspending. And so you want to make a commotion on the bottom inside the weed line, on the bottom right inside that weed edge. And so you'll cast parallel down the weed edge, let it sink, and now you're going to be in the weeds with this thing. And that's why we like the 3/16 or the 1/4 ounce head, because we know we're going to get to the bottom, and then this thing's going to be weedless and it's going to be sitting there. And then you can simply jiggle that in place, pull it forward, let it fall, hop it, let it sit, jiggle it, pull it through the weeds and let it fall down. It'll work itself nicely through the weeds, and it'll make a commotion in those weeds, and you're going to get some bites, and they'll swim off with it and they'll attack it, they'll hit it. You'll know. It's rarely subtle when they grab this thing, but this technique can allow you to go to those spots that you've thoroughly worked over with the topwater bait, and now you can approach them and kind of pick that whole weed line apart in 30 to 40 foot casts and pull it through the weeds right on that edge, all the way around that weed point or that weed edge. And in those key spots, you're going to find that you're going to do some cleanup and catch some fish that you didn't catch with the topwater bait. So super effective, but paralleling yourself with the weeds and getting a foot inside of them and hitting the bottom and making a commotion in that edge is the key that I didn't know before, right? You're casting into the weeds, across them, casting out where it's clean, and working it on the bottom. I've always, so I didn't get hung up in the weeds. You actually want to be in the weeds, but very near that edge. And that is the most effective place to be when shaky head fishing on a weed point or a weed line that's coming from shallow water out into deeper water. And you're going to get some bites, and you're going to use the topwater game, use the active fishing moving bait game to locate the fish, and then slow down and get on that weed line with the shaky head and do the cleanup on aisle 6 with the rest of it. And this is a great bait to do it. The Elastec and this great head will pull through. Give it a try. Actually actively get in those weeds on that edge and move it around and fish it thoroughly out. And let me know how you do. See if you change your luck with the shaky head by being more precise with how you fish it and where you fish it. I think you'll put more fish in the boat. Hope these tips were helpful. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.